So there was a segment on MLB Tonight, I think, with Ron Darling and Carlos Pena and Greg Amsinger, the host as well. They were talking about the GOAT in baseball. And the answers that they gave were...
You wouldn't laugh them out of the room, but they aren't necessarily the choices that are most frequently offered.
They gave Willie Mays as their greatest baseball player of all time, which I personally don't hate. I think Willie Mays, everything that you can do as a position player, he did, and he did extremely well. He played a premium defensive position. He played that position very well defensively, and offensively, he played very, very well. He's near the top of every statistical category. I don't know where he's in the WAR discussion, but I'm pretty sure he's top 10 lifetime. He ticks all the boxes for, if you were to say, okay, build me a baseball player, here are your restrictions, here are your parameters, and I want you to make me a great all-around player. I mean, there's no flaw in his career, really. There's no one thing you point at and say, well, he wasn't great at this or that. He was kind of good at everything and really, really good at certain things, but really good at pretty much everything.
Didn't pitch.
And there is the reason that you can't get into a GOAT discussion in baseball all that frequently.
So I have a couple of tabs on deck for you. I'm looking at the all-time career WAR list. That's wins above replacement for those of you playing the home non-statistical game. Babe Ruth is at the top of the list, 183.1. And I want to mention this specifically, too, because I'm going to look something else up. He has over 10,000 plate appearances and over 1,200 innings pitched. Now I'm curious. I'm going to look up to see what Shohei's numbers are right now. Because, Babe Ruth didn't pitch his whole career, maybe a few years. See how that tanks up. But the rest of the WAR. Walter Johnson in second. He has a 164.9. Cy Young, 163.6. And then you have Big Boy Barry, who is the first modern player, or what I would constitute to be a modern player, at 162.8. So that's 20 points lower than Babe Ruth. I will say that. There's also a guy on here named Kid Nichols, who I'm pretty sure was just a pitcher in the dead ball era. I think you know my thoughts about the greatest of all time. It's just a meaningless conversations. Other than maybe the people that were actually involved, like the players, if they want to recognize themselves, I get that portion of it.
Right.
But the incessant debates of trying to figure out who is the absolute greatest, the one guy out of all of the sport, out of all times, through the amount of changes that the game has gone through, going to 162 games, allowing black people to play baseball.
Yeah.
All these sorts of things come into play. It's just absolutely impossible to think of just one. Everybody has their argument as to who it is. And not only that, what people believe constitute as the greatest of all time is in the eye of the beholder. Some people will prefer the old school dead ball era approach. They might take an Ichiro over a Barry Bonds.
Yep.
Ichiro's never mentioned in those conversations.
Nope, he's not.
He broke dead ball era records. Nobody talks about him. Same thing kind of like in basketball, Larry Bird. Bill Russell. Bill Russell won over 10 championships.
He can't fit the number of championships he won on all of his fingers. To bring it back to baseball's discussion of the GOAT, there's so many different parameters for this argument, and the goalposts get moved so frequently that it is almost impossible to say there is one single solitary greatest player of all time for that specific sport.
Baseball is just a lot harder.
It's so much harder.
It's a team game. And also, there's so many other things besides how good the players are in general. We talked yesterday. Satchel Paige, at the age of 59, suits up for the Kansas City Athletics, throws 3 shutout innings against the Red Sox, and he was, 59? That's just
as a gimmick too. Not even like for real. As a gimmick to sell tickets.
Yeah.
Like So there's
Nobody told him that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you could do whole episodes on this, and you could go across different sports, you could go across eras, but I mean, there are all-time greats, but I don't think it's really possible to say that definitively, like, this is the single greatest of all time in this sport.